Soccer's morning show is on a Tuesday. John here, Jarrett there. And since it is Tuesday Thoughts, obviously there's a lot to go over. If there's anything on the table that is still lingering from the match on the weekend, we got that. We got a fight in the Super Classico. Ricky mentioned that yesterday, and we didn't get the chance to talk about it. We had the two firings that happened. Good evening, Bam. I know that, and we got Open Cup to talk about. We've got World Cup money to talk about. We've got, and this is in Bundesliga down here. It's interesting for one particular club, Hertha Berlin. There's a big story that came out in Forbes about where, but they may not be able to get a license next year, and that's not good. I mean, yes, they're in like the last spot right now in the Bundesliga, but they may not be able to get a license, like to operate. And so you got that this morning, and anything else that's on the table. So let's see. And Messi in a contract. We got that. Pochettino is close. We got Open Cup tonight to talk about too. And so there's Open Cup and the madness that's associated with it. So, Jarrett, we missed you yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know by how much, considering mostly it was a commiserating day, which makes sense because it deserved to be after this weekend.
Right.
Yes, it's called distastefully soggy morning in South Louisiana. Yeah, okay, so I literally just put gas in my car, and as I stood outside doing it, all I could feel like it unlocked some core memory I didn't intend to unlock today of like the weather. It's like it's in the 60s. It's humid as all get out because it's been raining on and off the last few days.
Right.
It felt like the kind of day where when I was a kid, um, my my dad would wake us up and we would all drive to the lake because my uncle would have his boat out and we would spend all day on the water. But this was I don't know, this kind of weather just kind of fit that vibe
Yeah.
where it's already humid, it's kind of warm, and the air is heavy, and we're gonna just go spend the whole day on the lake.
Yes.
Just kind of what it reminded me of.
Yeah, and you're running errands, and you sit there and go, "Man, I've already blown through a T-shirt, and it's only like 7:45 in the morning." It's like, well, so
Yeah,
much for that day.
yeah. It's just the unrelenting humidity of it all.
Yes, and since we enjoy it so much here in the southeastern United States,
Bam wants to swap with us, but
well, that whole Earth rotating thing and being below the equator.
yeah,
You know,
Bam, you have a lot of people here who would trade with you because, my God, Georgia is basically a giant warning sign.
yes, it is. Morning, Alex. Hope you're well. Yeah, and as we actually have juice boxes for all of the matchups for Open Cup, by the way, and
I would expect nothing less. At
well,
this point, you need to not to say you in particular, but I
no,
mean, at this point, you need to have juice boxes for this sort of stuff.
yeah, and
There's no
so
reason not to.
yes, and so it is. Yeah, it nearly is swamp donkey season. That is absolutely correct. When you're getting when you're getting those kinds of vibes like 7:30, 7:40 in the morning, you know that it's getting to that point. Oh, Alex, I've tried to figure out how to learn to read through talk to text and correction and all these kinds of things. So, I knew exactly where you were going with it being swamp donkey season.
It is just oppressive.
Yes, and we are getting to that, and then there's also news in other divisions that'll be part of opening kickoff coming up here in just a little bit. And basically, you can say that Paul McDonough has been named the new USL President and Chief Soccer Officer. Left without comment. I just figured I would just say it that way and let people do their own Google searches. But USL has decided to name Paul McDonough as their new President and Chief Soccer Officer on the website for the USL. Big quote from Alec Papadakis, the CEO, quote from Paul McDonough, bio of Paul McDonough, and there you go. So the USL, in replacing Jake Edwards, has replaced him with Paul McDonough. So that's your news out of the USL this morning.
Yes, Ricky, it's falling up, and it's falling up more than any of you ever accused Frank de Boer of falling up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, Frank de Boer actually won 2 trophies here, then went to the Dutch national team.
Yep.
Man, his time in the Dutch team was weird, though, because the results weren't really there, but, like, the underlying numbers were.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they just could not finish to save their lives, which is funny because the Dutch learned how to finish at the World Cup.
Yes.
But yeah, man, it was a very weird time, and yeah, he may have fallen up in some people's eyes, but he didn't get basically John Coppolella
Yeah.
by by a league and then get handed the keys to another league,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because that's what's happened here. Like, Paul McDonough, which, if I don't know if y'all saw the Stephen Goff tweet. Stephen Goff puts news out.
Yes.
Stephen Goff puts news out in a very neutral way. Like, here's the news. It's not really editorialized. Man, I've never seen Stephen Goff drop an emoji like that.
Ah.
Like, this redacted guy.
Uh-huh.
Stephen Goff was not having it, man. And I was highly amused by that.
He was beside himself. Here is the wording of said tweet. United Soccer League announces hiring of disgraced former Inter Miami executive Paul McDonough as USL president and chief soccer officer, and it's the emoji with the eyes looking
rolling.
Yeah, the eyes. So it is officially the eyes rolling emoji. So,
oh brother,
yeah.
Oh brother is the understood term here.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was Stephen Goff. When Stephen Goff does that,
yeah,
that's where you were. So
anyway, Paul McDonough was disgraced out of this league. I think he's disgraced.
Yeah,
Paul McDonough was run out of MLS for, and I have a genuine question about the Miami thing, and I don't know that we will ever get a real answer on this question.
Right.
How was he the only guy at Miami, or was he just the fall guy?
Yeah.
I don't doubt that he had a hand in it.
Yeah.
Paul McDonough was a guy who you brought into your front office because he understood the mechanisms that were MLS, which are very weird.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I'd love to know like who else was screwing around in that front office, because it can't have been just him, could it? I mean, it could have been. It's possible.
Well, but then you get to add in there plausible deniability and all those other kinds of things that would be a part of this discussion. So going back to May 28th of 2021, for those of you that may not remember fully, MLS fined Inter Miami $2 million and club owner Jorge Mas $250,000 following the investigation into the team's signing of World Cup winner Blaise Matuidi. Like I said, this is the wording from The Athletic.
Y'all risked it all for Blaise Matuidi, who got his ass absolutely washed by some really struggling Atlanta teams.
He got body checked into retirement by Santi Sosa, if you'll remember correctly.
Well, Santi wasn't the only one that was doing it, though, man. I mean, there were other teams in this league that were absolutely putting Matuidi in hell.
No doubt. Inter Miami's allocation dollars for 22 and 23 were also reduced by a little over $2.25 million. Additionally, like I said, this is a staff story from The Athletic. Additionally, former Miami sporting director and chief operating officer Paul McDonough is suspended from any MLS-related activity through the 2022 season, effective immediately. And then following the sanctions, Atlanta United announced McDonough, who had joined the club as VP of Soccer Ops after stepping down and leaving Inter Miami in December of 2020, and the club mutually agreed to part ways. Quote from Don Garber at the time. In April of 2021, MLS announced an investigation that found Inter Miami violated league roster and budget rules by having 4 DPs on their roster in 2020. However, when announcing sanctions, the league added that violations included incorrect roster categorization for Andres Reyes, who should have also occupied a DP spot, bringing the total to 5. So in Major League Soccer,
they also screwed up the Jose Carranza thing, which led to him going to Philadelphia and Jim Curtin doing the Jim Curtin thing where he unlocked Jose Carranza.
Mm-hmm. League said in March it was investigating the signing of Matuidi, who was being billed as signed with TAM. By acquiring him on a TAM deal, Miami preserved their third and final DP spot. The club signed Pizarro and Pellegrini, remember, as DPs prior to Matuidi's arrival, which it later used to land Argentine striker Gonzalo Higuain. The league release said that Major League Soccer reviewed 1,400 pages of documents during the investigation. The probe also found Matuidi was paid above the limit for a TAM player, $1.1625 million in 2020, and should have been classified as a DP. As a result, the club had 4 DPs for the final months of the 2020 season, putting it in violation of league rules that limit all clubs to 3 DPs. The club had to offload one of the 4 in compliance to the deadline on April 16. To do so, the team announced it was loaning Pellegrini to their League One affiliate.
I think it was Chicago that year who should have been the most aggrieved. I think it was Chicago.
I think it was.
Because I think it was Miami snuck into the playoffs that year under the gun. And if I'm not mistaken, Chicago would have been the next team up
I think
to
you're
take
right.
a playoff spot.
Yeah.
And instead it was Miami. So Chicago should have been the one that was aggrieved.
Yep. Inter Miami owners Marcelo Claure, Masayoshi Son, Jorge Mas, and David Beckham found to have done no wrongdoing. The league added that none of the club's players were subject of quote, the subject of the investigation, committed any violation, or were aware of any violations. Current contracts remain in effect. So that was the ending of the Paul McDonough situation at Inter Miami. And so basically, dude was given a show cause. It was like, you're out. You're out until the end of the 23 season. And so USL has now named Paul McDonough their new USL president and chief soccer officer. So there you go. So that was interesting when that came down across our bow this morning, or yesterday afternoon, really. So that's part of your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you who are watching on Twitch. Remember, thanks for everybody who has been picking up your Kickoff Coffee in various forms and flavors and such. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So that was an interesting thing yesterday. And because I was so Four Card says that you're one step closer to the MLS USL merger. I'm not so sure about that.
We'll see. I feel like all that kind of has gotten a little sideways.
Yeah.
I think
USL kind of wants to do their own thing. That's the impression that I get.
Yeah, I think USL kind of wants to do their own thing, and we'll see. We'll see if anything gets a little sideways,
Coco, yes. Okay, so Coco, since Coco went ahead and mentioned it, we're going to go ahead and get into it. Yes, long game, exactly. Long game. Yeah, kind of like the bloodline and making sure that you don't give Cody the championship and then you have Raw in Jacksonville. Yeah, I see the long game book in here. Coco mentioned Super Classico. On the topic mentioned about Super Classico, Coco loves seeing Barco still willing to get in fights with men much bigger than him.
Most of these cats are so many of these guys are from areas that Tito was one of these guys, San Lorenzo.
Yeah.
Most of these guys are from neighborhoods that put our concept of a poor neighborhood or a troubled neighborhood to shame.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be afraid of fight. Mm-mm. They're from areas that some of us are not going to be able to easily comprehend in terms of how rough the upbringing might have been or how rough the neighborhood might have been. They've probably seen some stuff.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're going to square up. Barco does not seem to have a problem squaring up if need be.
No. So for those of you that missed it, a brawl erupted at the Estadio Monumental in the 93rd minute after Miguel Borja converts a penalty. Most of the 83,000 obviously happy. Boca keeper Sergio Romero didn't take kindly to the provocative antics from arch rivals. This is the wording from our friends at Goal.com. Goal.com. Romero did not take kindly to supposedly provocative antics from arch rivals, and a huge melee resulted in 3 players from each side being sent off, as well as Boca coach Jorge Almiron. There were scenes.
All I can ever think about when stuff like this happens is actually what happened over the weekend with Clayton Kershaw, where the Oh, it was San Diego. I'm trying to remember who it was. It was San Diego. Like posted the crying picture of Clayton Kershaw on their big board after
Right.
they beat the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And someone asked Kershaw about it after the game, and he said, "If I don't like it, I should pitch better.
Yeah.
You don't like it, win the game.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, if you don't like it, don't give up a penalty in the 93rd minute.
Yeah. And so,
It's my easiest recommendation for you is don't give up a penalty in the 93rd minute.
no. Uh, Coco, says it was only supposed to be 4 minutes of stoppage. Then you get 12 minutes of fight, and then they re-announce 19 minutes of stoppage.
Okay, so the true upset here, and it's mentioned in the Twitch pitch, the true upset here is somehow Leandro Gonzalez Perez isn't sent off. He has a yellow card, which he operates on a yellow card.
Yes.
That's just how that's his standard operating procedure. And shout out to LGP for who's kind of like refound himself in Argentina after I thought he was really struggling in Miami. Every time we watched him in Miami, just seemed like he wasn't the same guy. Dude went back to Argentina and refound it. I don't know if he stopped by the Fountain of Youth or something on the way there, or if it's just a comfort thing. But man, he's been good down there. Good for him. Good on him for it. Somehow he wasn't sent off. That's one of the greatest upsets in like red card gambling you could have.
Exactly. Pallavicino, Centurion, Gomez for River, Morenciel, Ezekiel Fernandez, Valentini of Boca all saw red. Enzo Perez after the match, the captain for River. Terrible madness came out from all sides. and luckily we were able to keep 3 important points in the Super Classico. It is not good for the spectacle. There were a lot of people who got involved from both sides, the coaching staff, players who are not in the squad. We try to separate, calm down so that some go one way and others the other. But when there are so many people who don't have to be on the pitch with the nervousness from outside, it's difficult. So stoppage time of 19 minutes. Rivers head coach Martin DeMichelis said, "I appreciate Sergio and I love him very much. He knows me a lot as a person on the pitch and off it. I don't know what he was referring to with what he said. Sometimes the passion overcomes everything because of how the result was given. In Argentina, we can't stand losing. We'd rather let them kill us." Victory leaves River 9.
This is why I'm a fan of Clapole. They didn't want to lose, so they had the entire team sent off.
Yep. Victory leaves River 9 points clear in the Primera. Boca is down in 13th.
Boca's down bad. Boca's been down bad. That's not new.
Oof.
Boca's been down bad for a while.
13th.
Yeah.
Man, that's just to me.
They've been down bad for a while. I'm telling you, this isn't new.
No, but just to hear that comment of the Boca's in 13th. That's just something that doesn't quite compute at times. It's like Boca and 13th are two things in a sentence that you did not firmly anticipate. Coco says, yeah, LGP should have sent off multiple times, and it is an act of God that he wasn't.
I mean, you do get that in games where like officials are just go back to the Colombia-England game in the World Cup where Mark Geiger's trying to keep everybody on the field because he's trying not to impact the game with cards as like England and Colombia are taking turns trying to murder each other in between the whistle.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, you have officials who they're trying desperately to keep the game moving.
Yes. Coco, and the cool part, I don't know if anybody saw the picture. Coco says the halftime show called this game more fight than football, and then the second half happened. I don't know if you saw the picture, but it was a picture, I want to say, that Fernando Fiore put out on his social media. And it's two pictures where it is a picture of him and Andres Cantor 30 years ago covering Super Classico together. And then trying to recreate the same photo, it is Fiore and Nico Cantor, except that Nico didn't have a flip phone, I think was the way it was. And so he had to kind of recreate things a little differently. But yeah, so Fernando Fiore covers the Super Classico with a father and a son 30 years apart with two photos. And I thought that was pretty cool.
I mean, 30 years ago, it wouldn't even been a flip phone. It probably would have been a bricked phone, like one of those that looks like a mason brick.
Yes.
Oh, man, what a weird time to exist.
Yeah, and it does. Yeah, the quote quote reminds you of Joseph's playing with a knife in your teeth. Gara is what you're looking for. Coco, the ref was willing to play stupid games, and shocker, he got stupid prizes in the fight at the end. The ref was toothless, and the moment was too big for him. So
it's good to know that other countries have the same problem that Pro does, and that they're really, really awful at picking the right officials for the right game.
Yes.
Because so often we have this conversation about, like, oh, Philly and New York are going to play each other. Well, they put the wrong ref on that game who doesn't know how to handle it. Who was they put a ref who should have been doing, like, Colorado and Vancouver instead. And instead they put them on, like, two teams that are basically going to try and murder each other actively for the next 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And who don't actually have any concept or desire to play the game. So
and Coco isn't too far from it here. You can't let Super Classico be too big for you, or people will die.
Yes,
and
he's not wrong, that's exactly the problem. Is you get you can't have some official up there who is is shattered by it, and is he's just trying to, because we talk about this with players all the time about when a player looks lost, when especially younger players, where it's like, man, they just look like they're trying to tread water. I thought Alan Carlson was like that early in 2022. I thought he was treading water in games. He was trying to keep up with what the game was doing, and as the season went on, he got better about helping dictate the pace of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't have an official who's just trying to tread water in a physical, psychotic sporting event.
No.
When you need someone who's going to communicate and put his foot down.
Mm-hmm. Coco, legit point. Refs should have to ref Libertadores matches for multiple years before they get to ref a Super Classico. The ref was picking grass, treading water, chasing shadows, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, to Ricky's point, it is a different animal entirely when you're dealing with a Super Classico. And I think that
it's irresponsible to put them there.
Yes, and you don't want to put center refs or crews in positions to fail. And if they're not ready to handle that kind of normality, and I'll just go ahead and say it. I mean, because the Super Classico with Boca and River is its own animal. It is its own set of normal. And if you can't handle under normal circumstances, why on God's green earth or any other planet should you be allowed to do a Super Classico? Yeah, and Coco's like, especially now that the Monumental has had the expansion to 83,000, and you end up with just more insanity that's attached to it. So you've got all of that that's laid out there as well. So yeah, we couldn't let it go with all the breaking news yesterday that we're going to kind of get into now from yesterday and kind of recap what happened during the show.
My boy.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. So yesterday, Chicago decided to pull the plug on Ezra Hendrickson, and Red Bulls decided to pull the plug on Gerhard Struber. Mutual parting of the ways. So let's go. Let's start with Chicago and work our way to Red Bulls. And Chicago's firing of Ezra Hendrickson is, you're at the bottom of the next to last in the standings.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason for that, but it ain't Ezra Hendrickson, I don't think. I mean, once again, you're like, okay, we'll be patient with the build, and then all of a sudden you pull the ripcord.
I think he plays a role in some of it. Ezra Hendrickson hasn't been perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Ezra Hendrickson also got handed a really poor hand. I know a couple people described it as he got handed a poor hand and he played it poorly.
Yes.
Yeah, he did. Beyond that, though, like it's a really poor. It's a really poor hand he got to deal with, and what he ended up with was not getting the ball across the line a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is, like, they had a number. I mean, you go back, they lose the Atlanta game at the death, but they also dropped two games before that, but they were in winning positions. they needed to learn how to win, and they weren't doing that.
Yeah.
I think he had good ideas. It doesn't help though that like when we talk about like rosters not being good in some places, man, like Chicago has swung and missed so unholy wrong on so many designated players that it's almost like you need to intentionally screw up that badly.
Yeah.
Like by the law of averages, you should have gotten one of them right, and you didn't.
And what you also did is you sold Gaga Slanina and Jean Duran when you had the opportunity to, and they were not part of
There
any.
was minor reinvestment, but not enough.
Yeah, right.
If you wanted to compete, yeah, it's great. You had another great young goalkeeper, and Brady's really damn good. And by the way, now we have to have a conversation. If Ezra said he wasn't going to release those kids for the U20 World Cup,
Yeah.
I wonder if they get released now.
Yeah.
But man, the whole thing is just so. Ezra Hendrickson wasn't perfect. I liked his ideas. I thought he had some games where results didn't go his way, where it was like, well, you know what? You came in with a good idea. Guys tried to execute it, and it didn't work out, and that sucks. But it feels like he's still the scapegoat here.
Yeah, it
And
does.
not to cape, and having this conversation is hard without sounding like I'm trying to cape way harder for Ezra than I am.
Yeah.
But it feels like he is the scapegoat in this. And we'll have to see, like, how does that unfold for him going
Yeah.
forward? How does that unfold for Chicago going forward? Because this is a thing where, like, hey, Chicago has more problems than they do solutions right now, and I don't know how they get a fix in for all of those problems, because the problems, they are plentiful.
Yes.
And this is when we talk about, like, with the concept of, like, you just fire your coach. Like, man, don't be a Brazilian team. Don't be a reactionary SEC team on this. You sacrifice a lot of continuity when you're just firing coaches every year, and it's hard to establish anything. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if it's a couple years and things aren't working, you start having that conversation. And it's been about a year and a quarter for Ezra Hendrickson.
Yeah.
And no matter how questionable you think your club's roster is, I promise it wasn't as bad as what Chicago was dealing with, because my God.
To give you an idea, and I'm checking the club profile from our friends at Transfermarkt, just to kind of get the lay of the land here. You've got keepers in Brady, Jeff Gollin, Spencer Ritchie. You have center backs Carlos Terran, Mauricio Pineda, Rafael Sijos, who is a part of the investment. Wyatt Omsberg, Kendall Burks, Aceves, Angel Navarro at left back, three right backs, Soke, Johnny Dean, which I thought was a cool pickup. I thought that Johnny Dean was a great pickup. And if put in the right situation, I think that Johnny Dean could be a really good piece for an MLS team, considering how much hell he raised in Birmingham for Legion.
Michael, it is easier to change a head coach than 18 players. I do agree. Problem is, man, the 18 players in Chicago haven't been good for a long time. They keep my chief complaint with Chicago is they keep going through managers left and right and center, and the rosters continue to just be like they brought up some really good young players, but they're not like the rest of the rosters are just bad.
Yeah.
Like and even the guys they go get within the league, like Kasper Shabilko has been bad. He has
Yeah.
2 goals this year. One of them was against Charlotte in just back when, and that was with Charlotte before Charlotte like kind of righted steadied the ship a bit. I won't say they've completely righted it, but they'd steadied themselves a bit. Where Latanzio's made changes. That was early in the season where they were just comical. And then his second goal was the Franco Ibarra giveaway, and he got beat on the 1v1. He had to get the rebound after it was cleaned up. Like Kasper Shabilko hasn't been that guy for them. I mean, so yeah, you can change the head coach, but I think they do need to make they need to have a long look on their on their roster building side, because like it's as bad as a lot of fans around the league will feel about their own rosters. Chicago's rough
Yeah.
because they have missed so incredibly wildly over the last few years, and with designated players, with supplemental players, like it's been missing after missing after missing, and it's tough to when you can't play on the fringes like that. Like you're just trying to get it across, when you're just trying to, like, the margins are so small in MLS because of the way it's built. You cannot succeed when you're not even having like replacement level guys, but like sub replacement level performances.
Well, and to Michael Head's point, he says he hates how Shaqiri now looks. Is it too much football in a short time?
Yeah, I
Is
agree.
it time to
I
put him
agree.
over the hill pile?
Dude, man, and I thought Shaqiri would be better than he was, but I
Yeah.
agree with you completely. And I don't know what the hell happened there.
No.
Um, like it just didn't work.
Mm-mm. I mean, right
So
now you're looking at Jairo Torres, and like I said, this is me staring at market values. This is not salaries, because
I think he might be over the hill too. Shaqiri,
yeah,
I think
and
we've seen
I think that's also part of it. I'm looking at
age comes for all.
yeah, as we always say, was it Father Time and Mother Nature are the two that are always going to be undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
You look at values, and you look at what players are staring at here. So let's take a peek at the top players. I mean, Jairo Torres right now, he's their top marketed player, and Jairo Torres with bonuses is making like 1.2. Now, Xherdan Shaqiri has a market value, according to Transfermarkt, of $4 million. So let's take a peek at Chicago Fire's salary structure here, and you look at Xherdan Shaqiri, and I'll ask this question somewhat rhetorically, because I think we know. Yeah, perfect for the A-League, Bam says. Xherdan Shaqiri, right now, if we go with that thought that Michael has too much football in a short time span, or time to put him in the over-the-hill pile, let's look at output versus salary figure. Shaqiri's base salary, $7,350,000.
That's rich.
Plus another $800,000. So his guaranteed compensation is $8.153 million.
And just so we're clear, if you watch him play, man, like go back and look at the Atlanta game. Go back and look at the buildup to the goal, for Giacomakis' goal. Like Shaqiri ain't putting in the work either. Like it's not. This ain't a dude. This ain't a dude who's who's past it, and he's trying, and you can tell he's trying. Like Shaqiri doesn't have that work rate to go that like you'd be begging for. Oh man, it's not working, but you can see he's trying to make it work, but it's not, like, it's just not his game.
Yeah. It's like whatever gears Xherdan Shaqiri is trying to find in that transmission,
Don't exist. Well, they don't exist anymore.
Those gears are slipping. That gear shift isn't finding anything. And
it does not have power shifting either. So I mean,
no.
it's two hands and a belt wrapped around there with some leverage to get that thing to shift. Like my first car was that I used to drive to school was a '76 Datsun pickup.
Nice.
And it would not go into reverse. Well, I mean, it would, like, 20% of the time. It just wouldn't go into reverse. So like I would get to school early anyway. And I would like park in my designated parking spot in the school lot. And if I missed it, I would have to pull all the way through because I couldn't reverse it.
Again, Coco looks like he's just done, and that the realization of retirement is hitting him in real time, and we're getting to see it. And no doubt, Michael, he's getting paid regardless. Bad contract, an aging player here for the paycheck. Fire went with the 2.0 model. With MLS 2.0, you decided you wanted to bring in a big name, and you wanted to bring in somebody that you thought could either A, get butts in seats, B, put the ball in the back of the net, C, both. and you're getting D, none of the above.
And here's the thing though, if you bring a guy in like that, like you can theoretically make it work because you got to put people around him to support the way he plays. You got to put guys who are going to provide cover behind him, um, who are going to make runs off of him, where he can just basically kind of sit back there like Brett Favre in the old in the old Wrangler commercials, where he could just sit back there full time QB.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they don't really have that.
No.
And which
it's
sucks because it sucks to see. It sucks anytime we see like a famous player that we all know, and you're like, man, what the hell happened?
mm-hmm. Here are the players that are currently making 7 figures, and this is including base and guaranteed. 7 figures or more with the Chicago Fire. Jairo Torres is making, and this is complete, 1.2, a little over 1.2. We mentioned Shaqiri making 8.15, which is insane to me. Once again, 1.2 Casper Shabilko, 1.1 guaranteed plus more compensation. So 1.2 plus for Shabilko. Gaston Jimenez is making 2.3, and it looks like it's a 3-year, $8 million deal, if my math is correct. Then you have Sejos, who looks like he's making probably $4 million over 3. And so he's at 1.336. Everybody else is making less than $1 million. Bornstein, Bornstein's making $330,000.
Just go do the thing that Nashville and now Atlanta have done. Go find a player who scored a lot of goals in Eredivisie and bring them in. Seems to be solving your problem.
Yeah, I mean, you've got. I mean, there are a lot of folks that are making 6 figures with Chicago, but those 7-figure guys, Sejos, which looks like a $4 million over 3, Jimenez, which looks like what did I say, 8 over 3, Shabilko at 1.2 with guaranteed, and then Jairo Torres at 1.2 plus, and then Xherdan Shaqiri is a weight on your everything.
And Michael, I agree. Last year, like they did well with the Higuain in Miami. And the thing is, I don't know what I think like handing the armband to Gregory and like having some of those guys, like the sandpaper and grit guys, lead the team helped out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Miami's kind of stabilized things now a bit after the last 2 games, but I mean, it's still like they're still going to have season-long issues just because of depth. Because I mean, it's you can survive a couple weeks like that, but it's just so tough to keep it going, and to keep having quality out of your young guys who are sometimes going to have to play over their heads. That's okay that they do, and so it's okay that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's just the nature of the damn game, man.
Yeah. Coco's like, it was Pirlo 2.0. Big name that was passed when he landed in Chicago. Wasn't even a time when he was still good to go.
And Bam talks about Nani. Man, we had Nani here in MLS, and I swear I will go to my grave believing that getting rid of Nani is what kind of helped Orlando figure out their life.
Yeah.
Because Nani was certifiably insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his instability and his short fuse contributed to a lot of the problems Orlando had with their mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've got that, and Ricky with an interesting point. Being on a bad team's really exposed that. You wonder if he was on Toronto or something would mask some of his issues. I think that would be probably I think that's probably a true observation of it. I think that if you had him surrounded with other folks, then it would mask what is wrong with his game a little more. So, yeah, I mean, and you guys are staring at, Bernadeschi seems to be enjoying life, and he hasn't had Insigne consistently yet. Sharif reporting what? Sorry, I'm missing the modifier.
I think he's talking about the numbers.
Oh, I'm looking. Oh, that's from the MLSPA.
Yeah, MLSPA releases that twice a year.
Yeah. So,
to Michael's point, I mean, we've had this conversation about Luis here for the last week now. We talked about it last week. Like he hasn't done what you needed to.
Mhm.
I'm interested in this idea of bringing him off the bench
Yeah.
to maximize production. Maybe put him on the left hand side where he's not cutting in on his left foot as much. Um, but the problem is you're paying him to be more than just a guy you bring in off the bench to tilt the
Right.
game.
Yeah.
And that's something you have to assess. I mean, Garth Lagerwey talked about, when he came in, that look, changes on this team don't happen all at once. Changes in this league don't happen all at once.
Yeah.
Even for Atlanta, like you saw changes in the offseason. You're probably going to see some in the summer.
Mhm.
Even probably some big moves with Armada getting linked everywhere.
Yes.
Um,
Everywhere and
and
Travel.FC, yes.
yeah, yeah, but you're probably going to have other moves bantered about as well. Maybe some
Yeah.
smaller moves. Maybe like something for to reinforce your midfield because you haven't been able to, one, stay healthy in the midfield, and two, get the production you need out of said
Yeah.
midfield. And
Yeah.
then you want to work on the winger thing as well because a lot of it's going to fall on Derek Etienne coming up
Mhm.
because you're in a situation right now where it's going to be Derek Etienne doing a lot of the heavy lifting with Caleb Wiley going to the World Cup.
Yep. With the U20s, and so
So you're gonna get some assessment out of that, and
Mhm.
you're gonna get to see hey, do we need to go do, because right now you are in fourth place, um, which is really frustrating because you've had a really bad 2+ weeks. It would be very easy if you had just been able to find some results to look at this and say, okay, we're in better than fourth place, and we're looking at a situation where we could potentially be putting more space between ourselves and everyone else, and not have to worry as much. You're in
Yeah.
an okay spot right now because you did all that work early in the season. That's what I talked about early in the season, and frankly talked about last year. You do that work early in the season so that later in the year you can uh, so that later in the year you don't want to have slip ups, but you can afford slip ups, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't want to have them, but you can afford to have them and not die.
Yeah. You wanna give yourself space for error later
Yeah.
instead of trying to figure out how to scramble in a situation like that. You wanna bank points early, and you wanna bank as many as possible when you're 100% healthy, which once again, when you don't have your number one striker, Atlanta United obviously is not. But you want to bank all those points early to give you margin for error later, whether it's margin for player loss or player transactions, injuries, U20s, international competitions, international windows, whatever. You want to bank all those
You
points early.
you don't want to have to use it, but you'd rather be in this situation than sitting at Red Bulls, who also fired their manager, who's sitting on I think 9 points in the season, and like
Yes.
just an absolute mess.
Yes.
Um, this whole man, it both. What did Bam say? It was annoyed when he signed Heroes. Annoyed he signed a 2-year deal, played less than half a season, got injured, went to Europe, and announced he isn't coming back.
mhm.
Man, look, Orlando got better when Nani left. Nani had some magical moments for Orlando. As a whole, Orlando got better. Um, that being said, I think Orlando fans are really antsy right now. At least the ones I've seen online are really antsy right now because they, um, we talk about this in other sports, especially college football. Orlando won the press conference in the offseason, y'all.
Mhm.
Orlando won the offseason with a lot of really good moves. Um, Aside from that, Orlando hasn't been able to consistently put it together. Maybe because, again, the game isn't FIFA, it's not played on paper. You can't just throw a bunch of guys onto your roster and say, this will work, because
Yeah,
that's not how it works. Orlando has stuff they have to figure out.
they do.
And,
Orlando right now.
and go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Orlando right now. Before you kept going, right now they're ninth. They're in that last playoff spot at
Yeah.
4-4-2, and they're. I think they are what you've been staring at. They're a 500 club, and that's where they are right now. And they're at 14 points, but once again, they played those 10 matches, and they're just right there. They're there, and that's the best way I can describe it. Of all those teams at 14 points, Columbus, Philly, DC, and Orlando, they're there. That's a part of that 14-point group. And that's literally the best way that I can phrase it.
Yeah, and this is Orlando's got to figure it out. Everyone's kind of in this weird phase where they're trying to figure stuff out because, like, Yeah, man, like Philadelphia hasn't been great. New York, we know, hasn't been great. Atlanta's hit a really bad skid. To Ricky's point, I've seen that before as well, is this idea of why not play Louise up top?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know when it comes to skill set versus what he wants to, what his skill set will allow if he's at the point, as opposed to being off to the right hand side to set up his left foot. Those kinds of things. Is Luis the one that gets to run in behind, or does Luis take that 45-degree angle and create space in the middle with him being there in the middle of it all and moving off to one side or the other to create space to create in from behind? So those are the questions that I would have, at least with Luis, and what you would want him to do if he is up top and is that particular individual. We haven't gotten into Red Bulls yet. We have mentioned Red Bulls. We haven't quite gotten into it. Yesterday, Gerhard Struber, Red Bulls mutually agreed to part ways, and you had Troy Lassine, who was one of the assistants, and a lot of folks around here may remember him from his time with New Mexico United and USL Championship before. And he will be the caretaker manager for the remainder of the season. Questions were asked yesterday. Head of sport Jochen Schneider was part of the press conference in announcing the removal of Gerhard Struber, the mutually agreeing to part ways of Gerhard Struber. Schneider, when he was asked if New York was aligned with Austria on the coaching change, quote, "We are always aligned. We have very good connection with Mario Gomez." And then he adds that the April 8th incident with Dante Van Zier had no impact on the coaching change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that prompted, or did you just say that, like, just as an aside?
Like I said, I'm looking at the Mark Fishkin play-by-play of the press conference, and
Good
literally
one to read about this. So
this is how
Mark would know what's up.
This is how Mark wrote it on his scrolling feed. Schneider, when asked if New York was aligned with Austria on coaching change, quote, "We're always aligned. We have very good connection with Mario Gomez." Next sentence, Schneider adds that the April 8th incident with Dante Van Zier had no impact on the coaching change. Literally, that was how Mark wrote it down as he was doing his play-by-play.
Okay. I mean, it wasn't working in New York. And we talked to this. I think we talked a little bit with Dylan about this, and that, like, I know a couple of the national heads have talked about, man, they could have just not let Cincinnati have their coach and just hired him instead.
Yeah.
But hindsight is 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Struber was a big name when they brought him in. And I think one of the biggest problems for Red Bulls still is the same one that has been for a while. They've missed on those key guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like Philadelphia hasn't. Philadelphia brought in Gastock. Philadelphia brought in Ilya.
Yeah.
Philadelphia brought in Carranza, even though it was kind of a waiver from Miami. You took him on a flyer. They've hit on those guys who can be difference makers. New York hasn't. Like, Kaku was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Kaku was very bad. Vanzier has not been good. Has been now mired in a scandal.
Mm-hmm.
They've just missed on a lot, and you're always gonna. I think with all of those like energy drink caliber teams,
Yep.
you're gonna get those stretches where things are not clicking. We already started to see it with St. Louis, where you went through some of the stretches where it's just not working, and it's just the style. I mean, sometimes you're gonna get bad stretches where teams don't want to play you, or you get worn down and you just have to regen yourself, and it has its ups and downs. It just seems like there was a lot, like like they had more than enough like ammunition to just say, you know what, Struber, we're done, whether it's personal or otherwise.
Yeah. And after the loss to after the 1-0 loss to Philly, here's how it was.
By the way, only a 1-0 loss because of arguably the softest penalty I've seen given this year.
Yes.
I don't know if y'all saw this. The penalty that Philadelphia got,
Oh,
there's contact.
uh-huh.
But, I mean, if look, if if I had to listen to talking heads tell me that Brooks Lennon was searching for contact last year in Miami and he's a PK merchant,
Mm-hmm.
then it's 10 times that what happened to Philly because yeah, there's contact, but dude, he reaches out, grabs his arm, and then he drops like Jackson from Saving Private Ryan unloaded at him.
Yeah. So, you're looking at all of that. Charlie Boehm, who was listening and a part of the proceedings, Schneider said, "We came to the decision now after the Philly game together with Gerhard that we need to do something." Opta, the Red Bulls have 9 points through 11 matches this season, their fewest at this stage since 2009, the last time they failed to make the playoffs. In the announcement, Struber alluded to the difficulty being separated from his family, who remained in Europe following his move to Red Bulls in 2020. Boehm writes, yet the Red Bulls global ownership group are said to rate him highly, having reportedly paid upwards of $2 million to hire him away from Barnsley. Schneider stated the parting was not influenced by Struber's handling of the situation around suspended striker Dante Van Zier. And then it gets into Troy Lacine and how his USL background got him into Red Bull. And so, like I said, Lacine's going to be there for the remainder of the season. So you can take what you can take what Red Bull said with however many cups of salt you want. You've got an Open Cup match tonight. Interesting to see what the reaction will be. And then you've got Hudson River this weekend. So it doesn't get any more interesting than that. So how does Red Bulls as a team respond in Open Cup? And then in turn, with Hudson River coming up this weekend, how do they do that in the back-to-back? Tonight they host DC United. They're favored. Juice boxes have them at a minus 149.
I mean, new manager bounce versus DC's not been great, but they've been scrappy.
Yeah.
Like they're playing direct and they're like, what do we do? It's just the chart reads get ball to Christian Benteke, question mark, profit. And it's kind of like been what it is, man. Like get it up, go direct, get it to Benteke and let Benteke do Benteke things because he seems like he's genuinely enjoying himself. There's a good article on him last week where he talked about this is the first move that he made for himself. This was a him decision.
Yeah.
And he's scrappy for it.
Yeah. The Belgian bread loaf seems to be having his, as Robbie Earl referred to him, late in his tenure in the Premier League. The Belgian bread loaf seems to be enjoying himself in D.C. D.C., by the way, we mentioned that Red Bulls are a minus 149 on the board. D.C. in 90 minutes to win is a plus 390. I don't know if Open Cup is the same as you would apply to Major League Soccer on the road.
Open Cup's more of a wild animal. A lot of it is because teams will mix their rosters. Go look at what LAFC is lining up to send to Monterey Bay with the intention of losing that game, it looks like.
Well, and
basically sending LAFC 2 out there.
Yeah, and LAFC 2 is not very good this year in MLS Next Pro. So
that's okay. You're focused on developing guys with MLS Next Pro. I mean, it's you're going to take your lumps and hopefully guys improve as the season goes along. And then you learn from things like how not to blow a 2-0 lead on the road inside of 20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, since you mentioned that, I guess, how much longer do you have with us this morning?
Like 2 minutes.
Okay, well, then let's go
Make
here.
it quick.
All right. So we mentioned juice boxes in the Open Cup, and this is where we'll go once Jarrett leaves us. The 10:30 match, LAFC and Monterey Bay. What do you think the juice boxes are for this
one? It's in Monterey Bay, yeah?
Yeah.
Is LAFC the plus number?
No.
Oh, interesting. Is it LAFC like minus 350?
Close. You're half right. Minus 164 for LAFC. At Cardinal, Monterey Bay is a plus 363. Your 90-minute draw is a plus 305.
Dude, I'll take that. I'll take that 90-minute draw all day long. I might take Monterey Bay straight up.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean, if with LAFC sending most of like their reserves and twos to Cardinal to take on Monterey Bay because they're focused on Champions League, rightfully so. Monterey Bay right now is a plus 363 at home. If you've got some smelly, nasty juice boxes in the back of your fridge, I mean, like passion.
First of all, please God, clean your fridge.
Yes, that. But first, you look at the number. I mean, if you've got the nastiest juice box, I mean, if you've got some expired juice box in the back of your fridge, and it's a flavor that you hated, or it's a box that you forgot was back there, take that and put it on Monterey Bay tonight because of what LAFC wants to do and wants to focus on everything else. They're just like, nah, we're good. We got other stuff we got to worry about. So all of y'all, hey, you, LAFC 2 player, Aaron Bebo. Aaron Bebo probably will start for LAFC tonight at Cardinal against Monterey Bay. That's what you're staring at. And Monterey Bay is a plus 363. That's what you're looking at right now. So, yes, Jared, juice boxes, if you're thinking, and Bam is like money's on Monterey Bay. Bam, our resident LAFCer, is like money's on Monterey Bay. That's
as it should be.
Yeah.
LAFC's got a lot going on right now, to be fair.
Kind of busy.
Lost their first match in league. Bam, I did warn you. We did talk about this, and I know you know this. San Jose, again, made a deal with the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Because San Jose gets to beat LAFC at least once every year. In exchange for what? I'm not really sure yet. I'd love to see the terms of conditions of that deal that they made with the devil, but they get to beat them once a year. And then they also have a CONCACAF Champions League final coming up, and not even against Tigres, because Tigres can't actually do things right, apparently.
No.
Jerks.
Well, and they wouldn't have had Signac for the domestic leg here in the States anyway.
I don't care. It's the game everybody wanted to see. It's the game the studios wanted to see.
Oh, yeah. But you ain't getting it. And Bam says they look tired for the San Jose match. And Bam says for $1, he gets $4.60 back. I mean, legitimately, Bam, if you've got and we don't endorse this. If you have, say, 20 juice boxes that are just hanging out in the back of your fridge, you would end up with 20 to 92 juice boxes.
Yeah, we're also not sponsored by any companies that engage in these activities. So.
No. And so this is a composite number, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. So you probably could get something anywhere in that range. That is the average of the juice box numbers for this match. That Monterey Bay is a plus 363 tonight, with LAFC being what it is. And apparently Bam had to pay his bills. Well, it is after the first of the month. I understand that. Yeah, so he had to empty out his juice boxes. Literally, if you were Bam and you had 20 juice boxes, if you had a case of juice boxes hanging out of the back of your fridge, and you could do something with that, that's if you've got that many juice boxes, Michael Head, at a plus 363, bang, you're done. I mean, that's we'll see you tomorrow, Jarrett.
Yeah.
All right. So Jarrett Smith hanging out with us for the first hour. So Jarrett's got to go to actual work. But, legitimately, with that number right there, absolutely insane. With what LAFC wants to do and what they want to accomplish, they got their mind on other things. 363 to Monterey Bay tonight on the plus side. LAFC is a minus 164. So, just saying, we neither openly, we don't. Oh, no. Night, Bam. Tom, we are not going to ignore what happened yesterday. That's what our conversations are going to be here in hour number 2, about what happened yesterday in Coco. Can act like the Brighton game didn't happen. We're going to talk about the Prem. We've got some lower division stuff. We got Open Cup to talk about. We've got the story that I mentioned about Hertha Berlin, which is pretty dangerous. But let me cut a promo here, and then we'll finish up with the juice boxes for Open Cup, and then we'll get into everything else there. Is Barry like in the 9th division, Ricky? Because then I can resurrect my jersey and I can wear it on the air. So top of the hour, time to cut a promo. And this is where, once again, I try to remember to trim music, take things out of loop, and put it at a manageable level so you guys can hear what I'm trying to say. Reminder tomorrow, once again, Dylan Butler at 10 o'clock. Bart Keeler with Reffing Down Here, where we get to talk about Armando Villarreal and what it's like from Bart's reffing mindset about what he saw. He can inject fan vibe in there as well, but nevertheless, we can talk about the moments of the weekend and what he's visualizing and all those kinds of things. So Dylan and Bart tomorrow in the 10 o'clock hour, and we'll roll through these kinds of things. But it is now time to read the promo since we've cleared the hour mark. And it comes from our friends at Lemonize Service. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. That's Lemonize. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Lemonize deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. Lemonize service offering a turnkey process makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment we like that. Offering a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever, different than Febreze or our other favorite masking agents that we have either below the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when we reach below the sink or above us in the cupboard, we pull out that masking agent, spray it in the air. There's a reason they call it a masking agent. This masks the odors. It doesn't attack the problem like our friends at the Lemonize service do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing one of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's the website, and this is where I grab my pen. Go to Lemonize.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. Go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from so they can help you with your problems. Full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, Lemonize.com /Atlanta. The Lemonize service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a Tuesday with Tuesday Thoughts. So we covered a lot of ground in Major League Soccer in hour number one. Hour number two, trust me, we'll be getting into those playoffs because there's a lot of stuff that happened yesterday. The beauty of the bank holiday after the coronation is that yesterday at 10 o'clock, all hell broke loose in the lower division. And Jeff Stelling called his last Soccer Saturday, even though it was on a Monday. And he actually got to call a Hartlepool penalty and do a dance on the air. And so I don't think that Sky will be the same with Jeff not being a part of that Saturday program. But Ricky, doing the public service that he and others do here on the Twitch pitch, and I love you for it. A vote to merge Bury FC and Bury AFC has passed. It paves the way for football to return to Gig Lane. Very, very cool. So good on them. So my guess is they're probably going to be like in the 38th division or something like that. But considering what happened to Bury and almost to Bolton and where things are, and this is 90.1% of the Bury Supporter Society, 97% of Bury AFC voted to merge the two to play at Gig Lane from next season. Now they qualify for local council and government leveling up funding, which is also good. Shakers expelled from English football in 2019. Some fans going to form Bury AFC. They play in the Premier Division of the Northwest Counties League, the 9th tier of English football, staging their home games a few miles down the road from Gig Lane at Stainton Park, Radcliffe. A total of 2,700 votes were counted. So there you go. So 9th, it looks like they'll be in the whatever version the Bury AFC FC group is going to be. It looks like they'll be in the 9th division, and I hope so because the fans of Bury in that situation just got absolutely screwed. Same with like Macclesfield Town as well. And I have a Macclesfield Town scarf back behind me, as a matter of fact. But no, very, very cool stuff. Glad that they have unified and are working their way forward. We'll get into, second Beer League Sunday division. That's probably pretty close. Yes, absolutely. Tom, from one of the Everton fan pages. Premier League officials looking flash. I guess I should say it that way. All right, so let's go ahead and just go ahead and do it. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do it and lay it out since it was broken that way. All right. So we'll go ahead and take Tom's report. And we'll go ahead and give it the appropriate sounder. From one of the fan pages, Premier League officials looking into reports of the Everton team coach being abducted on the way to Brighton and team being replaced by footballers. There you go. That was a poor attempt at Walter Winchell a little after 10 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, we'll get into Premier League and the other divisions coming up in just a little bit. Open Cup. The other matches tonight. We got 8 tonight, 8 tomorrow. 7 o'clock, Charlotte on Orlando City. Charlotte is a plus 142. Your draw is a plus 233, and Orlando City is a plus 171. And that is one of the several 7 o'clock starts that are attached to what's going on tonight. It is on Golasso Network from Matthews. That one's on at 7 o'clock. The other one at 7 o'clock from Fort Lauderdale, it is Inter Miami and Charleston Battery. Inter Miami cannot sleep on the Charleston Battery. Ben Pierman's done some really good work this year with the Battery in USLC. 7 o'clock, this one's on BR. 7:30, your matchups there. The Revs hosting Pittsburgh Riverhounds. They're a decided favorite, no real surprise, at a minus 217. Your draw's a plus 330. And Pittsburgh to win in 90 minutes is north of plus 510. That one is on the U.S. Soccer YouTube channel, as well as Red Bulls DC United from Montclair in front of friends and family. Red Bulls are a minus 149. Odds have changed a little bit, not much, but they've kind of mainstreamed a little bit. Your draw's a plus 259 for 90 minutes. DC United has dropped to basically a plus 390. 8 o'clock, Chicago Fire, St. Louis City SC. The Fire are a minus 105. Your 90-minute draw is a plus 242. St. Louis City is a plus 262. That one is on BR, and that one is at Bridgeview. 8:30, Minnesota United, Philadelphia Union. That one's at Allianz. That one's on BR as well. Your numbers there, Minnesota United a plus 131. 90-minute draws a plus 243. The Union are a plus 179. We mentioned Monterey Bay and LAFC. 343 from Monterey Bay. I don't normally juice box, but that would be one that I would be staring at. 90-minute draws a plus 300, and LAFC is a minus 154. That match and the 10:30 match involving Sacramento and Colorado. 10:30, the Golasso Network has Monterey Bay and LAFC. BR has the match with Sacramento Republic and Colorado Rapids. So those are the 8 matches tonight. Sacramento favored at home at Hard Health at a plus 143. Colorado's a plus 160. Your draw is a plus 250. And we'll go over juice boxes more in depth tomorrow. 7 o'clock, FC Cincinnati hosting NYC. Loudoun hosting Columbus Crew. 8 o'clock, Birmingham Legion hosting Memphis 901. That one's going to be a tight one. 8:30, Dynamo hosting Sporting Kansas City. 8:30, Nashville hosting FC Dallas at Geodis. 9 o'clock, Austin FC hosting New Mexico United. 10:30 out west, LAG hosting Seattle, and Portland hosting RSL. So those are your numbers for your Open Cup tonight. And if you can figure out, like I said, and here's where, and I'm going to go ahead and post the link. So not everybody gets trying to figure out, it's like, where can I watch? Where can I watch? Where can I watch? I'm going to post that so you guys can sit there and then go and keep an eye on that tonight. Well, and Michael, to your point, and for those of you that want to try and join us for the Friday night frenzy that's going to be at the Reverb Hotel downtown, a Reverb Hotel presented by Hard Rock, it looks like it's going to be everybody. It's going to be all of us and Jess. Jessica Charman is going to be there as well. So um, it will be an interesting night. It's going to be Jarrett, Nick, I think, me, Mike, Jason, and Jess at the Reverb. And so follow the Flood Project on all of your social media channels. I know that Scott Flood had, I think, 25 openings for the rooftop. So if you can make it, follow the instructions with the Flood Project. And if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. It's going to be a fun night there at Reverb. And we'll take a peek at what's going on with Atlanta and Charlotte. Anything else that comes to mind, we might even do a weekend whip around when we're there. But to answer, Michael, your question about Charlotte playing midweek, here's what they're missing, and here's who they could miss. Derek Jones and Enzo Copetti out for a yellow card accumulation. They both picked up yellows last time out. So Derek Jones, Enzo Copetti out. Injured, Malanda, Tuiloma, Mora, Josviak, all varying degrees. And so what you've got is tonight, you will have Derek Jones and Enzo Copetti playing, but what you will not have is them on Sunday or Saturday night. So you have two of your traditional starters and your leading scorer in Enzo Copetti, who will not be there because of yellow card accumulation, various injury levels, Malanda, Tuiloma, Mora, Josviak. So that's what Charlotte isn't going to have when Jess and Willie P call the match on Saturday night, and when Mike and Jason call the match from Mercedes-Benz on Saturday night. Pregame at 7, kickoff at 7:39, and they will have the full postgame show after. So that's what you're staring at with Charlotte and a lack of Charlotte. So they may not be good Charlotte, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, and yes, according to Doug Ricky this morning, Franco Ibarra, Yakamakis, Luis Aruju training according to Doug. Ibarra was in concussion protocol. And Yakamakis, we know the injury that he was fighting with the hamstring, and Luis was fighting the adductor injury. So let's, we'll keep an eye on that this week. So, Abby, let me check those numbers when it comes to yellow card accumulation, and we can get into individual stuff. So let's see. Getting into statistics. Let's see, stats. Here we go. Let's check the yellow card numbers and see if we can come up with anything here. Assists sent to let's see if defending gives us yellow cards. No, it doesn't give you yellow cards. You sit there and you're looking for filters and you're looking for stats, and it's not helping. Minutes, subs, goals, pass assists, tackles, fouls called. I need like the second stage of this. This is what I'm staring at here. So, like I said, that's what I'm hunting for it, Abby. So, all the filters. No, I don't want numbered filters. Clear. It's like, fine, go away. All right, so let's go to FB Ref since the MLS statistics are not helping, and we can come up with our yellow card accumulation here, and we can figure out what we're staring at. Let's see, performance. Where's my 90-minute views? Progression. I don't want offensive. I want defensive numbers. And playing time performance. Okay, here we go. Not anybody close. You've got Yakamakis with 3, Ibarra with 3, and Juanjo Purata with 3. So not anybody like close, like if they picked one up against Charlotte, they'd be out in quick succession. But Juanjo Parata has 3, Ibarra has 3, Yakamakis has 3. Santi Sosa only has 2. So that's what you're staring at right now. A couple with 3, and then it's all kind of spread out from there. So Atlanta United not in any yellow card danger at the moment when it comes to the upcoming match with Charlotte. Let's see. What else do we have this morning? Oh, yeah, you want to talk about England. So we'll talk about England for a little bit. I don't know if Tom or Ropes or Emilio have recovered from what happened yesterday and the abject craziness that happened in the Premier League. But I guess this is what happens when you have 3 matches on a Monday. And you had Fulham and Leicester finish up at 5-3. I know that Nix is probably cursing every step that he's been taking after the match. And it was the early match yesterday. It was on, the first half was on while we were on yesterday. And so Fulham gets the win. They get their full points, and they're trying to chase what could be a European Conference League spot. Don't know that. Everton is the one that was the shocker. In juice boxes, by the way, juice boxes going into that match, not that I would have touched it under any circumstance, Brighton at home at the Amex was a minus 278. Everton was a plus 744. Almost a plus 750 for Everton. Everton stunned everybody and thumped Brighton 5-1. Got them out of the relegation zone. And then if that wasn't enough, a rare weekday opportunity to be at the pub and watch. I mean, it was a good question, Michael, about yellow card forgiveness. I'll dig that one up. But the last match yesterday, Nottingham Forest and Southampton, was crazy. And if there wasn't any doubt in anybody's mind about the environment at City Ground when Nottingham Forest is playing, yesterday was a fantastic example of that. Marinakis, the owner of Nottingham Forest, could have been at his Greek Classico match involving Olympiacos. He was at the match with Nottingham Forest and Southampton. $200 million of player investment, 30 transfers. They now have more points than transfers, and that was the running gag. 7-goal craziness with Nottingham Forest. So here's how things stand. Right now, Manchester City, and we'll go over this again later today. Prem and Proper will be up on the network, and we'll hear from coaches and get you ready for the weekend and coming up in short order. Manchester City, match in hand, point clear of Arsenal. Then you've got Newcastle, Manchester United, Liverpool. 3 points separate them. Newcastle, Manchester United, 1 less match than Liverpool. Liverpool's played 35. They only have 3 to go. Then you look at Spurs, Brighton, and Villa, separated by 3 points, chasing after European football. Spurs right now at the last Europa League spot. Brighton would be in Europa Conference League. Villa is 1 point behind, but Brighton has 2 matches in hand. So Brighton, if they match what they're seeing from Spurs, could be playing in Europa League next year, which would be massive for them and that fan base. Everybody else is kind of in that second group. Now, West Ham's win, we're going to drop down to 15th. West Ham's win over Manchester United on Sunday shocked the world, put them at 37 points. Safe to say if they win one more, they're good. Here's where the fun starts. Southampton is at 24 points. I think they're done and dusted. They've only won 6 matches of 35 this year. They're on their 3rd manager. Hassan Hüttl, Nathan Jones, who they brought up from Luton Town, and then Ruben Sayas. Leeds is at 30 points. And I know that Chris Ashley in Greenville is gnashing his teeth on a daily basis. Leeds is at 30 points, goal difference of minus 25. And that is where, if they are going to get out of the relegation zone, they need to do it on points. They can't rely on goal difference. Leicester, minus 15 in goal difference. They're at 30 points. They're the other team in the relegation zone. So Leeds, Leicester, Southampton right now. The win yesterday for Tom and for Everton and for Ropes and for Emilio, puts them at 32 points, 2 points clear, 3 matches to go. Everybody at the bottom has played 35 matches, so they're even Steven with 3 matches to go. Nottingham Forest has won 2 of 3, by the way, and they're at 33 points, 3 points away from relegation, but still got some work to do. So coming up this weekend, Leeds is hosting Newcastle. They're a dog. Forest is at Chelsea. They're a big underdog. Southampton is home to Fulham. They're a dog. Sunday, Everton's got Manchester City. Tom, with all due respect, good luck on that one. Manchester City's basically a minus 300. Everton is almost a plus 850. Leicester is Monday Night Football, and they host Liverpool. They're a dog. So it doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot of movement at the bottom of the table on the weekend. Leicester, dog. Everton, dog. Southampton, dog. Forest, dog. Leeds, dog. This might be a weekend that's a wash. If anybody in that group can get points, it would be a bonus. That would give them 2 matches to go and still be in this relegation scrap. Like I said, I think Southampton's done. But that's what you're staring at right now in the Premier League. Yeah, Everton drug Leeds into the relegation zone. Yeah, I mean, Tom, you did need Southampton to get a result at Forest, but Forest, I think, has gotten 27 of their 33 points at home this year. That's the thing. Is like you make do at home and then try to get some stuff on the road. Yeah, yes, Michael, you're safe. You're staying up, and yeah, it will be interesting because of, and they rotated against Leeds, and the when they rotated, and I want to get the lineup. This is what they rotated to. Ederson, Akanji, Laporte, Ake, who was injured. Lewis, Gundogan, Mahrez, Alvarez, De Bruyne, Foden, Haaland. That's what they rotated to. Your subs for that match: Walker, Ruben Dias, Calvin Phillips, John Stones, Jack Grealish, Rodri, Ortega, Bernardo Silva, and Gomez. So, yeah, that's what they rotated to. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, Newcastle can't afford to drop any points. Liverpool, they might have found something. Bill's going to have to max out to make it to Europe. Brighton having those matches in hand, absolutely. Manchester United seem to have popped the air brake, so hopefully, according to Coco, they'll just drop out of the race. And Ricky, I hope I have the opportunity to go full Travis Kelce on Wayne Rooney. But yeah, it's going to be interesting with the Premier League and how it lines up. Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting because later today, it's the first leg of Real Madrid and Manchester City. 3:00. And then they do the flip-flop next week. So Real Madrid, Manchester City, first in right now. Real Madrid, get this. Real Madrid is a plus 225 at home in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. 225 at home to Manchester City. 90-minute draws a plus 270. Manchester City's a favorite at a plus 120. Personally, I ain't touching that. But if it's anything for me, I think it's going to be the draw option because what is it they always say that you can't win a two-legged fixture in the first one with the first leg, but you can certainly lose it. I think if anything, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Bernabeu, Ricky, Bernabeu is a wizard factory. So I think if anything, it's going to be a draw, goalless 1-1, so Manchester City can win it next week. Tomorrow is AC Milan hosting Inter. We don't have juice boxes for the return legs yet, but tomorrow, and things may change, but just so we have it, Inter's a plus 150, your 90-minute draw is a plus 217, and AC Milan is a plus 213. So that's what you're staring at with Champions League. Champions League, 3 o'clock today. That's what you're staring at. I promised that we were going to do stuff in lower division. So let's do stuff in the lower division. Since we were talking England, we're talking Manchester City. All right. So here's the stuff in the lower divisions. And I know sometimes that I kind of go off the rails with this kind of stuff, but it's fun. And I know that Tom had mentioned that he's looking forward to all of the playoffs. All right. So standings in the championship. Burnley, Sheffield United up. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Luton Town, unbeaten in their last 5. Middlesbrough, who kind of limped their way in, but they had a bit of a cushion. Coventry, and this was the madness that we talked about in the championship. Coventry at 70 points, drew in the final day. They went from 69 points to 70. Millwall had it, but they lose to Blackburn. Blackburn pulls Millwall down with them out of the playoffs. Blackburn at 69 points, but they had a goal difference of -2. So Blackburn beating Millwall kept Millwall from going into the promotion playoff. Sunderland, with a win on the final day, gets in. So it's Luton hosting Sunderland. Coventry City goes to Middlesbrough. And those matches are on the weekend. 13, 14, 16, 17. So weekend, midweek. So that's what you're looking at with the championship playoffs. Going down, Reading, and I'm sure that Jess's ears are now burning because of that. And remember, they also had a 6-point deduction because of FFP. If they didn't have that 6-point deduction, Cardiff would have gone down instead. But because of the points deduction, Reading goes down, Blackpool goes down, Wigan, who also had issues paying their players in a timely fashion, they go down. So they go down to League One. Once again, 3 names that were in the Premier League. Tom, it is the Flood Project on Facebook, if you're looking for something like that. Would love to see you. So the Flood Project on your social media channels, and it gives you the connect the dots. So Reading, Blackpool, Wigan down. All 3 in the Premier League within the last decade. League One, Plymouth Argyle, Ipswich. Kate Riley, formerly of CNN Sports. She's got to be happy. So Plymouth and Ipswich. Go look to Facebook. Go to like Facebook and social media. There should be something there. Plymouth, Argyle, Ipswich up. Playoffs, Sheffield Wednesday. John Harkes will be paying attention to this. Sheffield Wednesday hosting Peterborough, who won on the final day. Derby County lost on the final day. That's how they didn't get in. So Posh makes their way in. They go to Sheffield Wednesday. Barnsley hosting Bolton. Barnsley lost 2 of their last 3. So your promotion playoffs, 12, 13, 18, 19. On the 12th, Peterborough, Sheffield Wednesday. Juice Boxers have thrown a blanket over the whole thing. And then Bolton and Barnsley. Bolton is a home favorite on the 13th. And then the reverse on the 18th and the 19th. Going down from League One, and as someone who is a part of the AFC Wimbledon Supporters Society and the Dons Trust, the other team that we don't mention by name, they got relegated. They only got 3 points in their final 5 matches. They go down. Cambridge United won on the final day, and there are social media posts about all of the fans in the supporter section at Cambridge United's match when they realized that they were staying up. It's madness, and it's a fun watch. But Oxford lost on the last day, didn't matter. Cambridge United won 2 of their final 3 to stay up. The other team that left Wimbledon to go play 30 miles away and create their own identity, they go down. Morecambe, the Shrimpers, go down. Accrington Stanley won 2 of 3, but they didn't get but their rush was too late. And Forest Green Rovers lost 4 of 5. They lost 31 of 46 matches in League One, so they go down. So up, Plymouth, Ipswich, playoffs, Peterborough, Sheffield Wednesday, Bolton, Barnsley. Down in League One, the other team that was formerly in Wimbledon that caused AFC Wimbledon to be created from scratch, Morecambe, Accrington Stanley, and Forest Green. Now in League Two, yes, Eventbrite, there you go. In League Two, up, Leyton Orient, Stevenage, Northampton. Northampton Town won 3 of their last 4. Playoffs had a bit of crazy. Mansfield out by 1 goal in goal difference. They won on the final day, out on 1 goal in goal difference to Salford City. So Mansfield Town finishes 8th by 1 goal. Stockport County hosting Salford City, Bradford City, and Carlisle. Those are your 4. All 5 of those teams separated by 4 points. Stockport County at 79, Carlisle, Bradford City separated by 5 in goal difference, but at 76 and 76 points. Salford City makes it over Mansfield Town by 1 goal to make it into the promotion playoff in League Two. Heading down, Hartlepool, much to Jeff Stelling's dismay, and Rochdale. First time that Rochdale is not in league football for the first time in 102 years. And things got so bad for them that the fans took over ownership of the club. But they will be in the National League next year, having won 9 of 46. And then with the National League, you know about our friends at Wrexham. They got the automatic promotion, and right now, Notts County needed a last-minute winner to send Boreham Wood packing, and so it was the 2 advancing and the 3 advancing. It was a bit circuitous. Chesterfield had that first round bye. Bromley, the 7 seed, got a win. Bromley loses to Chesterfield in the semifinal. Notts County got the first round bye as the number 2, and it took that last-minute winner to beat Boreham Wood. So it's Chesterfield and Notts County for the final to figure out who advances out of the National League for that second spot, and that one is on the 13th this weekend as well, 10:30 in the morning, for those of you who have nothing to do while you're waiting for the Atlanta United match. So a lot of stuff, a lot of fun stuff, and a lot of great stories in the pyramid in English football. And there's a lot of other stories in Italy. I think Sampdoria was relegated for the first time in a dozen years, if memory serves. And so they're going to be looking at life from Serie B. Sampdoria lost 3 in a row. They've only won 3 of 34. They have been eliminated with 4 matches to go. Cremonese needs to get some work done. They're at 24 points. Spezia is at 27. So you could have some big names get relegated out of Serie A. Spezia is 3 points from safety, and they need some help in goal difference. Hellas Verona is ahead of them by 5. So Salernitana, 8 points clear. It's what happens when you have Memo Ochoa. So 4 matches left in Serie A. You can have a lot of big names get bumped out. Monza, by the way, safely in the table at 12th when it comes to that. In Spain, we've also talked about them with a lot of the big names in Spain that could be relegated out of La Liga to La Liga B. And the fight that it's trying to keep those names alive. Elche is gone. Elche is relegated. They've won 3 of the first 33. There's 5 matches to go. Yeah, and Coco, you could see Sampdoria come down, drop, and not come back for a long time. Espanyol, Getafe, Valencia, Valladolid, Cadiz. 4 points separating 5 clubs for 2 relegation spots. And if you want to include Almeria, you can, because that's 2 points clear. So six teams, 5 points, 2 relegation spots, and technically 5 of those clubs separated by 2 points for that 18th place spot. So that's what you're staring at. Almeria, Cadiz, Valladolid, Valencia, Getafe, all separated by 2 points and various goal differences. But you can have a lot of big names out of La Liga this year. And yes, thank you, Alex. Good morning. That just reminds me, with your comment, it reminds me of the Edwin Newman appearance. As Pacine says, the names in Spain stay mainly on the plane. Reminds me of the Edwin Newman appearance on Saturday Night Live with Rich Hall, who wanted to be an anchor like Edwin Newman. And Edwin Newman used the Reigns in Spain stay mainly on the plane as part of his anchor training. And trivia, Rich Hall would marry Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and they've been married for like 9 gazillion years. Good on them. But all of this stuff that's going on in the world brings me to the story about Hertha Berlin, since we've kind of been talking about what's been going on around the world. So, and this is something, Coco, you mentioned Sampdoria. We mentioned what's going on in all of the leagues in Europe that have issues with big partners, with big names and all this kind of stuff. So, Manuel Veth at Forbes has a story out, and it's another club that we need to keep an eye on for various reasons. So, last week, Hertha beats Stuttgart 2-1. 5 points behind a non-relegation spot within 3 points of Stuttgart, who have that relegation playoff spot. Remember, the 19th and 20th teams go down to Bundesliga B. The 18th team plays the third team in Bundesliga B, and the winner of that one stays up or goes down. So that 18th place position is a playoff game with a team from Bundesliga B. So Hertha has a little work to do. But, and Byrne, if you're listening and you listen later, go ahead and back us up with any information that you have on this. A report in Germany's Süddeutsche Zeitung from the weekend suggests that there are problems off the pitch that could, in theory, for Manuel Veth, lead to the club not receiving a Bundesliga license next year. Sources speaking to Süddeutsche Zeitung have suggested Hertha is the most difficult case ever encountered by the Deutsche Fußball-Liga Licensing Commission. The club, according to the report, has blown through $411 million received by the previous investor Lars Windhorst and lacks the funds to pay back a $44 million loan due in the fall. Hertha hopes to generate the necessary cash by selling several players that were paid for with the Windhorst millions. Problem is, and we'll get into the Messi thing also. Thank you for the reminder, Tom, because that is also on the list for this morning. So we'll talk about Messi after this. Hertha hopes to generate the necessary cash by selling players paid for with the Windhorst millions. Luka Bacchio, Richter, Toussaint, Serdar, Piatek. A couple of players that could find homes. Everybody else from that, not so much. So that potential $40 million hole in Hertha's finances is just one of the problems. Veth continues. The report also highlighted that the DFL is also concerned about Hertha's new investor, 777 Partners. 777 Partners bought Windhorst's basically 65% stake in the club back in March, and in order to comply with the 50+1 rule, the club, at least on paper, has to remain in control by holding 51% of voting shares. That's the 50+1 rule. Club has to stay in control of 51% of voting shares. The DFL is concerned that 777 Partners, who, if the name is familiar to you, they own Genoa, Standard Liège, Red Star, Melbourne Victory, and Vasco da Gama, now may have significant influence over decisions that could be in violation of 50+1. Reports from Germany have suggested, unlike the Windhorst company that held the Hertha shares, 777 can influence all club-relevant decisions. Windhorst was only able to influence decisions that exceeded a volume of $22 million. 777 co-founder Josh Wander said in a club statement back in March, underlining their commitment to 50+1. Great respect for the manner in which football is structured in Germany. Looking forward to working together with all those involved in order to help Hertha fulfill their potential, end quote. Discussions regarding the 50+1 rule in Germany have intensified in recent months as the league is looking to bring an investor to sell part of its international rights. Furthermore, Veth writes, the German cartel office has recently come down with a ruling that supported 50+1 but also scrutinized the Bundesliga to allow exceptions to certain clubs. So the DFL might be forced to look at Hertha or the relationship that Hertha has with 777 and figure out what they need to do. They recently appointed Pal Dardai as their new head coach. And apparently that was made without any kind of opposition from 777, although 777 apparently was thinking maybe you could have gotten somebody that was a little more glamorous. Hertha did acknowledge that they are in communication with the DFL regarding the license for next year. And Hertha came out with a statement. So Hertha's fighting relegation, and they also could be fighting their own existence. So we'll keep an eye on Hertha Berlin going forward. Coco mentioned Sampdoria. Nick has called Serie B a knife fight in a phone booth and how hard it is to come back when teams drop down. Sampdoria is not built to bounce back. Could be down for a while, and if finances don't turn around, could be a long stay. Tom, 2-year story. And I had this on the list. There has been talk out of, let me know if you're surprised by this, England, that there is a deal in place for Lionel Messi to go to Saudi Arabia. Jorge Messi basically picked up his number 2 Ticonderoga pencil from the desk and said, not so fast, my friend. He has come out on Instagram and posted a statement. Quote, there is absolutely nothing agreed with any club for next season. We will decide at the end of the season. Nothing is signed, agreed, or verbally agreed, only fake news using Leo's name. And that comes from Fabrizio Romano and a bunch of other folks. But yeah, it does seem like that this is more a fait accompli, and it's just figuring out the details of the $400 million a year deal that Lionel Messi, we've been discussing here on the network, that Lionel Messi could be getting $400 million a year to be an ambassador for Saudi Arabia, play in the Saudi Pro League, and be a part of the Vision 2030 project, along with CR38, Cristiano Ronaldo. They have to determine, okay, what team are you going to play for? And figure out, basically, he'd get assigned. Is it Al Nassr and Al Hilal? Do you get that rivalry, jazzed up again? Do you do that? That's the big question. But does seem like a fait accompli. Jorge Messi went on Instagram this morning, and he's like, nothing's official, nothing to see here. He was like Kevin Bacon at the end of Animal House during the riot, during the parade, waving his hands in the air. Stay calm, all is well. Allegedly, possibly, probably, maybe, perhaps. So keep an eye on it. Jorge Messi has denied it. Denied! So Coco is saying that he's got to go to Al Hilal to get the rivalry back, but Hilal are already winning a title without him. And it would further bury not Al Nassr and Ronaldo. And I know that there'd be a lot of fans internationally that wouldn't have a problem with that. Just saying. So you got all of that this morning to keep an eye on. And we got gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. But yeah, so many views. Yeah, and by the way, and I wish there was a way that it could have been shown, but Sky yesterday had live streamed, and it was geo-blocked, obviously. They had live streamed the Cristiano Ronaldo match to their web. So you wonder if the Saudi Pro League is going to try and do something like that, or if they're going to try to come up with some, hey, you want a contract to run the Saudi Pro League? Pay us, a money. Pay us a couple of bucks, and we'll see what happens. News out of Barcelona. Barcelona is going to play a friendly against Vissel Kobe in Japan. And so we'll keep an eye on that. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo this morning. We'll get into the rest of the grid and what you can watch, too. Players shifting, going from one place to another. Who wants what? Who wants to go where? Who wants to go where when? All that kind of stuff. So there's plenty of gossip this morning. PSG football advisor Luis Campos has spoken to Jose Mourinho's agent. Jose Mourinho and PSG. Keep an eye on that. That's from RMC Sport. Once again, Messi, possibly Al Hilal. French season ends June 3rd. Right now, PSG, I think, is 6 points clear with a handful of matches to go, with a month to go in the season over Marseille. Chelsea is looking, this is from the four-letter paper, so take the information at your own peril. Chelsea looking to offload Christian Pulisic at the end of the season, could use him as a make-weight to encourage Napoli to sell Victor Osimhen. Like I said, four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Dortmund's Jude Bellingham will reject the offer of a one-year contract extension to 2026 and a significantly improved salary of €14 million. That's from Bild. Barcelona have set an asking price of €80 million for Rafinha, who is wanted by Newcastle and Chelsea. I'm sure someone will bite. But that's just an asking price. It'll be interesting to see what the price in and of itself will be by the time we're done. Bayer Leverkusen have renewed their interest in Granit Xhaka after failing to sign him last summer. West Ham resigned to losing Declan Rice if they receive an appropriate offer, but they are looking to jack up that number. Not interested in a player as part of any offer as a make-weight. They want their £100 million valuation met. Football Insider. And right there with you, Michael, I think Pulisic has to leave Chelsea. He's got to be part of that egress. When you've got, 32 players? You ain't getting playing time. And especially if, Pochettino comes in and has certain players in mind. Christian Pulisic has to leave for his own benefit. £100 million valuation for Declan Rice. We'll see if that sticks. Marseille's Matteo Guendouzi is an option for West Ham as a potential replacement for Rice. Don't do it. Ask Bart, our resident Arsenal fan, about Matteo Guendouzi, unless he really has improved. Eintracht Frankfurt will not sell Randall Colomowani for less than €90 million. Crystal Palace's Michael Olise is attracting the attention of PSG, who are ready to make a bid for him in the summer. That's also from the four-letter paper. It's also from TalkSport. Villa, Leeds, West Ham have been linked with Lyon's forward Moussa Dembele. David De Gea, who once again had a howler of howlers, has been given no assurances he'll remain Manchester United's first choice next season, even though he's close to agreeing to a new contract. It's from the Telegraph. Once again, from the four-letter paper, Newcastle sporting director Dan Ashworth and scout McTate have watched Blackburn midfielder Adam Wharton. Crystal Palace, Fulham, West Ham are among the European clubs interested in Jefferson Lerma from Bournemouth, who's out of contract this summer. And James Ward-Prowse says there's no truth in reports suggesting Southampton will let him leave if they are relegated. They need to. One of the few assets that they have. We went down that road. We'll go through it one more time as to who is marketable, transfer marked for Southampton. I'll go ahead and say when. Yeah, Taya does need to hit the bricks. It's been dicey for a while. All right, so let's take a peek at Southampton. We'll go by market value because I can hit a button. Here's what you've got for marketability and how whacked it is sometimes when you look at market value and just how overinflated it seems to be sometimes. James Ward-Prowse is their most marketable player, no surprise. Currently with a market value of $38 million. Kyle Walker-Peters at 25, Tino Livramento at 25, Romeo Lavia picked up from Manchester City, and their U21s at 25, Shea Adams at 22, Kamaldeen Suleiman at 22, Armel Bella-Kotchap at 20, Salisu at 18, Gavin Bazunu, who they have on loan from Manchester City at 18. Onuachu at 17, Aribo at 15, Duhe Kaleta-Kar at 14, Bednarek at 14, Elianusi at 12, Adam Armstrong at 12, Mara Alcaraz 12, Gineppo 10, Maitland-Niles 8, Diallo 8, Larios from Manchester City, who joined from their U21s. Edozie joined from Manchester City's U21s. Lianco, who had the header yesterday that kind of set the game on its head a little bit, $4 million. Theo Walcott at $1,800,000. So marketability in Southampton, two things that may not necessarily go together, but we'll see as to what it looks like. So that's Southampton. Marketability and what it's going to look like when they get relegated, that's going to be one of the more interesting test cases of a team that is going down, and they went with analytics and tried to go with younger players that they thought were ready for the big time, and it didn't work. So we'll see what happens there. Also checking the papers before we go and before we figure out what you can watch on TV. And I imagine a lot of you, rightfully so, should be saying, I'm going to be watching Champions League, as you should. So Granit Xhaka linked with a move. And avoiding the 3 and the 4 letter papers as we always do. Daily Telegraph, West Ham have not ruled out starting next season with David Moyes as club manager. And winning Europa Conference League would give his case to stay on a huge boost, understandably so. And speaking of, when is that? Europa Conference League. So the Europa Conference League semis are Thursday. First legs are Thursday. Fiorentina hosting Basel, West Ham hosting AZ Alkmaar and Georgi Mihailovic. West Ham, big favorite at home. Fiorentina, big favorite at home. So those are 3 o'clock. Both of them are 3 o'clock local time, East Coast time, on your Thursday. So keep an eye on those. Europa League semis, also Thursday at 3 o'clock. First legs, Roma, favorite at home on the plus side to Bayer Leverkusen at a plus 112. Juve, big favorite at home against Sevilla. Sevilla's north of plus 400. 90-minute draws of plus 260. So we'll keep an eye on that. So that's what you're staring at with there with man, keeping David Moyes. Okay, keeping David Moyes. Keep an eye on that. Also, let's see. Wout Weghorst, according to the Sunday Times, hopefully he has a future at Manchester United beyond the end of the season after positive talks with the club. Avoiding the four-letter paper and all of their news. Daily Mirror. Rob McElhenney has once again urged young Gareth Bale to reconsider his retirement and join Wrexham on a one-year deal. Apparently, McElhenney also hosted a pool party for the club recently. Eric Ten Hag has given his players 2 days off after the defeat to West Ham. And Chris Wilder insists, quote, he has not gone off the boil in management despite a tough season that ended with Watford failing to make the playoffs. Scottish papers, Rangers reportedly interested in Austin Trusty as Michael Beale narrows down his lists of targets ahead of the summer window. Potential arrival at Ibrox could signal the departure of Ben Davies. Dundee United will not appeal Charlie Mulgrew's weekend red. Aberdeen chairman Dave Cormack has admitted he had a lucky escape and was a walking time bomb until his recent heart operation. Glad that Dave Cormack is up and around and recovering. So that's good stuff to hear. Tom says Alexi Lala suggesting Christian Pulisic should just go ahead and go to LA Galaxy. Oh, and they were all partying in Vegas on Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney's dime. I think legitimately, two things really quickly. LAG is going to have to get rid of some salary. They're going to have to shed some DPs, Douglas Costa, if they're going to try to bring in Christian Pulisic. Tom, I think legitimately with Wrexham, I think they could win League Two next year. I think they, at the very least, they can make the playoffs in League Two, and they could probably take League Two. They continue to invest the level that they're at. I think they could take League Two, get into League One. Because from all the conversations that I've had, level of play at the top of the National League with Notts County and Wrexham, and really they need to fix that rule where somebody is just massively ahead of everybody else. I think your top two need to go, not your top one, because Notts County was also over 100 points, and literally it took that 90 plus 4 to get the win over Boreham Wood, to get into the game, to get them into be that second team in League Two. But no, I think that if you continue to invest at the level that you've been investing in, if you're Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, I think you can win League Two next year and then get you into League One. That's when the business starts. That's when you hit the business end of the schedules, when you get into League One. And I'm still not going to pay $11 billion to go see. As much as I'd love to, I would love to see Wrexham. But Abby said that the prices for the game in Raleigh were out of control. The game against Los Dos in Carson, California, walk-in tickets to stand around $45 and go as high as $275. And I think today is the day that if you were an Amex card holder, you could get in on the pre-sale to be in Carson, California for the match against Wrexham and Los Dos, which would be interesting. But I digress. What to watch on TV today before we go? And if there's anything else on your mind, go ahead and dial it up. What is on TV today, you ask? Well, I'll tell you, other than all of the matches that we talked about in Open Cup. So here's how your day starts. You start with Real Madrid and Manchester City. It's on CBS and 2 NA and on Univision. Then you go through that. Actually, your day starts a little earlier. You got the CONCACAF Beach Soccer Championships on Fox Soccer Plus. Noon, USA's playing at 1:20 at 3 o'clock. Canadian Championship is on Fox Soccer Plus. Wouldn't surprise me if they drifted that over to FS2 with Forge and Ottawa. We mentioned Golasso Network. We mentioned YouTube and BR Football with the matches there. Paramount Plus also has your semifinal play and the 2 matches on YouTube. So you start your day at noon with the CONCACAF Beach Championships. After the U.S. is done at 1:20, you go over to the Champions League at 3 o'clock, go through all of the Champions League stuff, then be ready for Open Cup at 7 o'clock. You're not getting to bed till 1 o'clock and watching all of the sport today. So that's what you do. You started at noon. Ciao, Tom. We'll see you soon. We'll see you tomorrow. And hopefully you've caught your breath. And that is another go-round of the show. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks to Jarrett Smith for coming in hour number 1. We go through all the news, gone through all the stuff. That's the official term. Later today, we will have Prem and Proper up. We'll have the MLS Next Pro show up on the network. And tomorrow we'll start getting our interviews ready for the NPSL Southeast show that's going to come out on Fridays during competition weeks. And get you ready also for USLW, which is kicking off. And hopefully we'll catch up with folks Thursday show with the USLW with the USLW league kicking back in. So thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with me. As always, it's fantastic, our conversations that we have in the back and forth. So for everybody here at SDH, and go ahead and check Eventbrite and the Flood Project and see if there's any space available for Friday night where all of us are going to go hang out. We're going to catch up with Jessica Charman, talk Charlotte. We're going to talk twos. We'll talk about MLS. We'll talk about Atlanta United in Charlotte. It's going to be all of us. It's going to be a fun time up at the top of Reverb, the Reverb Hotel, where the view of Mercedes-Benz is above average. So it'll be great to catch up with everybody there. Thanks to Derek Sumter and everybody at the Reverb Hotel at Hard Rock for letting us come and hang out there on Friday night. So for everybody here at SDH, for Jason, for Jarrett, for Nick, I'm just John. Played safe, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Very, very busy day in soccer. Very, very big day. But it's the end of the show, and that means I get to do this. We'll see you tomorrow.